China was the fifth nation in history to become a nuclear power when it detonated an atomic weapon in 1964. Yet, given the fact that China hadn't fully industrialised yet, was internationally isolated and its economy was on the verge of collapse, how did it manage to do it? How did China build a nuclear weapons program? So, as of the 1950s, China had just finished a long and brutal civil war which had been preceded by World War II. The Civil War had seen Mao's communists victorious, with the defeated Chiang Kai-shek's government fleeing to Taiwan. When tensions between the mainland and Taiwan flared up in the mid-50s, the United States got involved, meaning Mao was stuck. To China's leadership, this meant that obtaining the bomb was the best way to avoid a humiliating repeat. And fortunately, Mao had a nuclear ally to the north, the USSR, which was happy to help China acquire nuclear weapons because China having them had little effect on the USSR. But it sure did make the lives of America and its allies in the region a lot harder, so off they went. Now, the USSR had tested its first weapon 5 years earlier than this, and so had a lot of expertise by this point. And the Soviet leader Nikita Khrushchev saw this expertise as something that he could leverage against China to keep it under control. You see, Khrushchev and the rest of the Soviet leadership were starting to move away from that whole Stalinism bit of their history, and given that Mao was a fan, they saw a potential conflict on the horizon. And so what they did was make sure that Soviet scientists were in control of the project, and that without them China wouldn't be able to complete it. Which is why when Mao denounced Khrushchev as a lame fake communist who was too nice to the West, the Soviets withdrew from the program, taking both know-how and important components with them. This left the Chinese not knowing how to proceed safely. But Mao wasn't interested in safety. Mao was interested in proceeding. Now, it won't shock you to know that trying to fumble your way through building nuclear weapons using what the Soviets left behind and hoping for the best was not a great plan. And as a result, there were numerous setbacks. The deathy turns out this stuff is kind of dangerous style of setbacks. Eventually, the Chinese government accepted that you can't just demand that science be achieved, and it allowed the program more space. And within 5 years of this, the scientists involved had cracked it and China was ready to test its own bomb, which it did in late 1964, much to the annoyance of the already existing Western nuclear powers who previously only had to worry about the Soviets. The Americans were particularly worried about another country building massive amounts of weapons that they'd have to match warhead for warhead, but the Chinese opted to not go down that route. Instead, the Chinese military pushed for a strategy of making any nuclear war with China cost too much, which is the strategy that China, as the world's fifth nuclear power, still uses to this day. I hope you enjoyed this episode and thank you for watching, with a special thanks to my patrons: James Bisonet, Mr. Wolf, Kelly Moneymaker, Sky Chappelle, Jerry Lambdin, Jordan Longley, Adam Stalter, Corsho Wolf, Gareth Turner, Marvin Cassell, YN Hockey, Captain Psydog, Spencer Lightfoot, Boogly Woogly, Matthew Shipley, Maggie Paxkowski, Aaron the White, Robert Wetzel, Marcus Arsner, Anthony Beckett, Alex Schwinn, The McWhopper, Gustav Swan, Copper Tone, Spinning 3 Plates, Mo, Winston Kaywood, Charles I, Ben Ivinson, and Scottish Trekkie.